Stop. I can't take it anymore.
Oh, I do the live ones too. Yes, I know. I saw your act in the theater. You're really quite good.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I need it.
Welcome back. We are breaking up with RBS. This is episode number 53, and I am Tawny Santabria.
And I'm JDK Winnikin, here once again to debunk whatever junk came up this week or has been piling up in our lives.
Did you have a lot of junk?
No more so than usual.
The same old regular junk?
It comes from interesting places these days. I notice it from different quarters than I used to. I think maybe because I was focused on the big areas for a long time, and it can pop up just about anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and I'm learning to not worry so much about that, right? Because we all have it. We all make up those stories about things that are going on in life, and they can sneak up, like suddenly I can be like wandering off in my mind and catch myself. Ooh, I've been in that space for 5 minutes, wondering how this is going to turn out, or envisioning things, or having a conversation with somebody that is only in my head.
It's like the weeds that I pull daily at my house.
Okay.
In the rocks, in the flower beds. I pull them. A week later, what do I notice?
They're back.
Another one.
In a different spot.
Right. They get cleaned up, for a hot second.
Yeah.
And then I notice another one. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah. And so therefore, that's why you have to regularly weed.
So I'm always talking about weeding and people are sick of it, but I actually really like it.
Yeah. You've said that before. You like to weed it.
Yeah.
There's something about the intentionality of it, or you're cleaning things up.
Yeah. Cleaning things up, but also like there's not a whole lot of complicated problems out there.
No.
When I'm pulling the weeds.
No. And it's like, if you don't pull the weeds, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
And if you pull the weeds, you know what'll happen.
Yeah. So it's, it's pretty basic. So, it's kind of therapeutic. I don't have to think about a whole lot of things.
Yeah. I like that.
Not making up a whole lot of stories about my weeding situation when I'm weeding. I'm just kind of, pulling this one and then pulling the next one.
Well, we brush our teeth every night because we know what'll happen if we don't,
Yeah.
We shower, we keep ourselves clean.
I don't think about it too much. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this sense, right?
Yeah.
Breaking up with BS is like that. It's a regular process.
Totally. So those things pop up. We don't have to think about them too much. We just notice they're there and we decide, oh, is this a conditioned response that I want to keep? Or, is this a way of thinking that is, serving me now, or just my conditioned past? Or can I choose something different?
Yeah.
And then away we go. We don't have to why is this weed still here?
Right.
What is wrong with me that this weed keeps popping up?
What have I not done to the soil?
All of the things to beat ourselves up about why this thing keeps popping up.
Yeah. And what's interesting is in those moments of recognizing when we have that choice, I don't know, for me, what ends up happening is usually the energy around that just kind of diffuses just from even asking the question, recognizing that it's, that there's a BS story that's trying to take hold. Ah, okay. Because if you don't feed it, it dies.
Yeah.
Like weeds. Except no, they continue.
They're pretty hardy.
They are hardy.
Right?
Yeah.
So
So
that's kind of the stories too, is like they've been there for so long, they still can come back even though we're not feeding them.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But then in the moment of them popping up, in this moment, we can choose. Right? Knowing that in the next moment, the next day, the next week, the next month, that same thing could pop up again. And then I can choose whatever I want.
Correct.
Right? It's that awareness as opposed to the goal being like, oh, pretty soon, if I just know this much about it, pretty soon they'll never even pop up.
Right.
No, they still do.
It's a natural process. Weeds happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So in that sense, BS is like weeds in our head.
Yeah. So that's the thing, when I think that's one of the things when I talk to my clients that they're surprised and shocked by and kind of dismayed and maybe a little sad by is that we think that we're going to get to this place of, oh, it's just these stories aren't going to pop up anymore. I'm going to be able to get to this place and all will be well and life will be easy peasy. And then when I tell them, no, that's not actually where we're going.
Yeah, that's a story too.
We are that this is just what is happening.
Mhm.
So when we're engaged with what is happening and not making a problem out of it, then we can see it more clearly for
Mhm.
what it is and then make a choice.
Mhm.
So, but that consistent practice, that choice, the process of making the choice becomes easier,
Mhm.
not that those stories don't pop up anymore.
Yeah.
So then what comes up next is, oh, there's this need to be patient with ourselves
Ah.
through this
Mhm.
if we're going to
If this
try
is the
to make some
reality.
shifts.
Yeah, right. Right. Right, because it's not about those stories going away. It's about the response time from a place of presence getting easier to access or becoming smoother, or pick however you want to describe it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that process of, not adding stress to the system like we talked about
Yeah.
last week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So patience. Yeah.
Patience. Yeah.
Because that is required. Because if the bubble gets burst, that no, we're not going to get through this in a year, and you'll all be good. You got
Right.
it's practice. It's like pulling
Yeah.
weeds, brushing your teeth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As long as I have a yard, I'm going to be pulling weeds for the rest of my
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
As long as I want to live in presence, I'm going to have to notice
Yeah.
for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
It's not just going to magically happen
Mhm.
that any of us are just present without having to be aware.
Yeah. And somehow that making problems become less
Mhm.
or fewer and farther between.
Mhm.
Not true.
Yeah. Right. There's just a sense of clarity
Yeah.
that then makes things simpler.
Yeah. Right. And that
So,
can reduce the stress response just by itself.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So patience, yeah, that's a big one. So they hit that. Where do you go?
Mhm. Well, we just kinda sit with that for a minute.
What does it mean
So
to you to be patient?
so sometimes I can get a little chuckle in, because I get to see
Uh,
this, like,
how are those
whoa-ness
feelings landing?
that happens. But no, I mean, I think, humor is important too through this,
Hugely,
right?
hugely.
And when we're a little bit more patient with the process, then we can access humor a little bit more easily also.
True. Well, I found too that when you find success, more and more success in recognizing those things, and the time, like you said, the response time gets shorter. That for me always felt good,
Mhm.
relief. That felt like progress. Easier to laugh,
Mhm.
easier to recognize that, okay, that's that moment.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when we slow things down and we really start to pay attention. And again, what we're conditioned to do is speed things up, fix problems now, and move on.
mhm.
And no, not a whole lot of patience required in that, right?
No, not even suggested.
Yes, but when we slow things down because we're actually going to start to notice and we're actually going to start to pay attention, then we're going to need to be able to access some regulation or some patience,
Mhm.
some ability to be okay right here, right now, without having to, push towards making it different.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
And so slowing down in and of itself often, you know, shifts the stress response
Boy, that's true.
happenings of the
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. And that by itself sometimes can just help with better problem solving in the long run,
Mhm.
rather than rushing for it from that headspace, slowing down. At least that's happened for me,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
and maybe there's no problem to be solved.
Right. Right. Yeah. Might be a manufactured problem.
Right, right.
Right.
So that's the thing, we're so this other side of like, okay, no, here's the thing, here's the problem, fix it, move fast, right? Get to the other side. Um, what if we just were more foundationally focused on noticing? Like let's fully notice and and cultivate awareness before we even suggest moving,
Mm,
right? Like, what if we did that? So there's no push for a problem solving,
yeah,
right? We start with problem solving.
we do.
Okay, there's a problem here. I better fix it. I noticed a problem. Right? Like, I made it up. Maybe there really is one. Sometimes there really is one, right? But oftentimes we're so problem focused
Yeah.
that we are, deciding that there's a problem before there
Mm-hmm.
actually might be.
Mm-hmm. Recognizing we have some choice whether to make something a problem or not.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
and that's the other thing. Like, I think about talk to a lot of people around productivity at work. Okay, so they've got this long list of things they're going to need to do, right? And we keep adding to the list. Keep adding to the list of all the things that we're supposed to get done at work, right? So then it's a problem if we don't get them all done. Even though we keep adding to the list unawares, not even considering whether or not this is actually even reasonable to get done. We just
Mm-hmm.
keep adding. I need to get all of these. And because I've listed these as all the problems, I need to get them done now. None of them will work themselves out. We're not considering that at all.
Right.
Right. But you know what? I bet you several of them probably will.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And there's there might be other people who can help solve some of the other ones.
It might not even be for us to manage. Right.
Yeah.
But if we're not starting from a place of really getting clear first,
Mm-hmm.
we're just moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. We're we're adding to the stress bucket like we talk about, but we're also then, you know, light speed ahead.
Yeah, and that's not patience.
No.
So slowing down and patience. Would you say they're the same thing?
Well, I don't know. I
Does that
don't,
matter? Maybe it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I don't know. When I think of patience, sometimes I think of trust,
Mm.
right? Sort of just like,
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
okay, well, around uncertainty.
Yeah.
We all want to be certain about all the things. We're uncomfortable with uncertainty. We want to know how things are going to work out. We want to trick ourselves all over the place just to
Mhm.
make ourselves feel better. Right?
Right.
We'd rather do that
Yeah.
than get comfortable with uncertainty,
Right.
right? But on some level, trusting ourselves
Yes.
to slow down
Mhm.
in that in the next moment, whatever shows up will be okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I think about maybe trust and patience being friends,
I like that.
hanging out with each other.
I like that. I guess I was viewing patience more in that moment till you said that as kind of the deep breathing, sitting with something and recognizing that it's not going to hurt you.
Well, that could be trust too,
Yeah. Oh, right. Sure.
right?
Trusting
Trusting
yourself.
our
Right.
body. Again,
Trust
our
the body.
body knows what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to distrust it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Yeah. So that all those things fitting together. Man, yeah. Because that's really what it takes to pull weeds.
Mhm.
I've pulled weeds.
Yeah.
I don't like pulling weeds because my back gets sore and I get bored.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
You could take some music out there with you.
I could. Yes, I
Yeah.
could. And honestly, the only times I've weeded has been other people's gardens. So
Oh,
if it was my own,
could be different.
obviously it would be different. I
Mhm.
think if that was something I was choosing that I wanted. So in this case, for me, what I like in my life these days is whatever the equivalent of the garden is in my head. I like to keep it as weed free as I can
Mhm.
because I like it in there. I like how that feels to have the weeds cleared and pulling those weeds,
Mhm.
recognizing them, giving other things the best possible chance to grow when they're not choked out by weeds.
Yeah.
Because that's the flip side, right? It's you're taking the weeds out because yeah, it's good to take them out. Why? Because you want everything else to grow
Mhm.
rather than the weeds stealing it all away,
Absolutely.
stealing the water, stealing the nutrients in the soil,
Mhm.
stealing the sunlight, stealing the space.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I enjoy all that,
Mhm.
and but like a garden that takes tending to, right?
Yes. And we could use the same metaphor or example for this that we used last week with your football scenario,
Oh my god.
right?
Okay.
Did you have space for anything else when you let that whole what it meant to be a football fan
Mm-hmm.
for your team
Mm-hmm.
run amok.
Did I have any space for anything else?
Yeah.
No.
No. Took over.
Took over.
It was the weeds.
Took over.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
It was the weeds, and it crowded out everything.
Yes. Mhm.
Absolutely. And you could probably say that about, there's lots of things that could become.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of thing that we're uberly attached to
Mm-hmm.
and that we let run amok in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
whether that is fear-based or not,
Yep.
it can crowd everything else out.
Yeah.
And then again, the body is in a stressed state, and it's really more of a stressed state. It's really difficult to access patience in a high stressed state.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're really highly stressed in that the stress response is fight or flight because there's a real reason to be in fight or flight, we don't want patience.
Right.
We want to act.
Want to act, right.
We want to take care of it. But
Yeah.
that's when it's a real threat.
Right. We're talking about the stuff that isn't a real threat. That's the BS.
99% of
Yeah.
the stuff
That's the
that
BS.
we get ourselves worked up about, your team losing is not a threat.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's easier with baseball. There's 162 games in
It's
baseball,
easier
and they play pretty much
baseball.
every day. And so, like, you can lose one day and be like, "Oh, I'm mad about it," and then they play the next day.
Okay.
Football, it's like
Phew.
once a week.
So football, they just need to play more often?
No, I couldn't handle the stress, and they can't handle it. Their bodies wouldn't be able to handle it.
No.
But that's the thing, is you have 1 week to stew on it, right? Or you have 1 week to get excited about it, or 1 week to thrive off of it. And then you have the anticipation, or in my case, the fear of, okay, what's gonna be like this week? It was miserable. It was miserable. It's so much better now.
Sounds like it. Yeah, so much better
So
now.
much better now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and I enjoy both sports so much more now because I'm paying attention to what's going on. I recognize the win or loss has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing I can
Shocker.
do. Shocker. And no matter how I feel about it, if I'm excited or disappointed, I'm not going to be nearly as excited or disappointed as the guys playing it are going to be.
You'd think.
And what do I want to get out of it? My problem was I was identifying too much with a team's success or failure. When I just appreciated the sport, and the effort they were playing and cheering for them, hoping for them, it became so much more enjoyable.
Mhm.
So I had to stop hating other teams too. That wasn't a good thing. It's tough
There's a
with some
lot of
teams.
weeds.
A lot of
weeds to pull.
around sports. It's kind of a lame garden in the big scheme of things, right? Compared to the rest of life. We're not talking about anything monumental here, So that's the thing. So yeah, that patience. So when you have clients who realize this, taking us back to the, like, I got to be patient. How do they meet that a lot? Is it like,
Mhm. Yeah.
not a quick resolution, now I'm bummed out? Or is there, what?
You know, I don't, I like to sell it, right? So I don't, I
I
wouldn't
liked your
really,
sell shimmy right there.
I wouldn't
to
really
sell it.
try to like bum them out with it. I'd find some words to kind of get them excited.
Sure.
But yeah, the reality is that we're not going to get to this outcome is sort of like it's a game changer and takes off the pressure. Because I think a lot of times people are wondering, can I even do this?
Sure.
Will I be successful?
Sure. Like,
Right?
am
Some
I
of
up to it?
Right. Some of the
Mhm.
same it's part of the same process
Makes sense.
of those stories that come from the thinking space. And when when we really get that we're not trying to get anywhere, we don't even have to ask ourselves those questions.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a relief when we really feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know when I've talked with people about this too, when I ask them, when in your life have you ever really been patient with something? Almost everybody has an example. Okay, so
Sure.
there you go. You're patient with that. So you do know how to do it.
Mhm.
You've had success in it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of identifying those things. Yeah, I get, you definitely want to sell that, because at the same time, I never thought about it, but taking the pressure off, but it does.
Mhm.
Because then it's just a part of normal things. Like that's kind of what I like about it. When we first talked about patience, you know, You pay your bills every month. You brush your teeth. You eat quality food. Take a shower. Go to work.
Mhm.
You know, you have to keep doing those every day for those to continue to give you value
Mhm.
and be a part of your life. This is just another one.
Mhm.
And kind of a big one that cascades out into all the rest of those.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
some of those things don't necessarily cascade out the same way, but
Yeah.
that's why it's so fun to talk about this every week.
Yeah, we think about those big things like, okay, what if I get sick and I can't go do the fun thing that I want to be doing on the weekend
Mm,
because I'm sick and I'm not getting better as fast as I really want to, right? We could stew and stress about that, or we could find some patience through it
mhm.
and not get ourselves as worked up as we could. Sometimes after a job interview, right? Like, we wanna know the outcome immediately.
Yeah.
We
Right.
wanna know, we need to know what's gonna happen to our lives,
Yeah.
right? And so being able to stay in a patient, sort of trusting place of the process,
Yeah.
what's the point of stressing ourselves out extra for the next 2 weeks till we hear something? I mean, almost to
Right.
where, like, we're paralyzed.
Yeah.
We're not even living our life
Mhm.
because we can't, because we're waiting for this news.
Yeah. We've added that stress. Yeah.
So we do it with a lot of different things.
That happened to me not too long ago. I was sick a few weeks ago and I had to miss a baseball game with 2 friends of mine. We go every year. And I was really disappointed to not be able to go. I also knew I'm sick. What am I going to do? So what ended up happening was I shared that with him and said, I want to make sure we still do a baseball game. Can we pick another day? You guys go, have a great time, but can we pick another day? And what's coming out of that is I'm getting 2 more ball games because we can't all go together. So I'm going with each one of them.
Excellent.
Worked out just fine. And I didn't have to stress out about it because what I knew was I wanted to go to a game with them.
Mhm.
I was disappointed that I couldn't go that day, but what am I going to do? I didn't want to add any stress to my system when I was sick, when it already needed all my energy to just get well. Simple.
Mhm.
And really good outcome came out of it.
Yeah.
2 baseball games.
And you actively made the choice,
I did.
right? If you weren't paying attention,
Mhm.
you might have spent 12 to 24 hours
Mhm.
really not feeling great,
Right.
angry, upset,
Mhm.
frustrated. Why me?
Or I could have forced myself to go
Mhm.
and paid the price.
Mhm.
Because I remember even after the game was over, I'd listened to the game on the radio. When the game was over, I said to a friend of mine, I said, "It's really good I didn't go," because I would have been wrecked
Mhm.
by the end of it, and it would have made things worse.
Yeah.
So the answer wasn't to just push through, and the answer wasn't to just put pressure on myself, stress out, why me?
Yep.
What was no, it was just to accept what was happening, and then what could I do, you know, that would be productive? Set up a time to go do it another day.
Mhm.
It sounds so simple, but for me, it was a real accomplishment to be able to do both.
Mhm. Yeah.
Felt
Yeah.
good about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we again, we've learned over time to kind of beat ourselves up about things that we don't have control over,
Mhm.
right? So paying attention to those conditioned ways of thinking
Yeah.
and making shifts around those
Yeah.
is just going to create such a difference
Yeah.
in the health of our overall system.
And
That's what we want.
that's slowing down, taking that deep breath. It's funny. It sounds like such a cliche sometimes. Take a deep breath, and it's not. Take a deep breath into your belly. Keep taking them. Slowing down.
Yeah, aligning ourselves with our breath, right? I know we talked about this a long time ago. The breath is sort of the bridge into the system,
Yeah. To that
right?
ventral vagal system. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we, without force, because this is the other thing we do, take a breath. Not that breath, right?
Right.
So we want it, we want an effortless breath.
Yeah.
We want a
Smooth
full
and
breath.
flowing.
We want to be aligned and connected with our breath. We want to soften into our breath. We want to slow it down. That's the kind of breath we're looking for if we're going to take a breath,
I'm doing that right now.
right? So no force,
Mhm.
right? And really treating that breath as a best friend, right?
Yeah.
We always have the right tool with us through these situations, and that is the breath.
Mhm.
We really, most of the time, I would say 100%, have it with us if
God,
we
I hope
have a
so.
choice to use it.
Yes. I hope so. If you don't have a breath, something's really problematic.
If you don't have a breath, then that's a different situation.
Right.
If you have a breath, you have it with you always. And working with it, using it as a tool, that is your best friend. That is the best tool you can use to be able to get into the body, to calm the body, to soften the body, to shift the stress response
Slow
in the
down.
body.
Mhm. To get that slowdown.
And
Yeah.
it naturally, again, if it's effortless and it's connected, it naturally takes us out of our thinking space of like, the what ifs and the things and the what
Mhm.
if and the criticisms and the blames and all of the things that we are held hostage
Yeah.
by
Yep.
in that space.
Yep. Because the ventral vagal then is clicked on, right?
Mhm.
Kind of drives out the darkness like a light switch does.
Yes, and my grandbaby learned to do the light switch
Really?
off, on, off, on.
Oh,
It's his
boy.
favorite new thing.
I'm sure.
Right, so he's learning. We're teaching him really young
Yeah.
that light switch thing, we'll get it into the body as soon as we can, right? But he's learning. Off, on.
It's fun. And it looks like there's a poltergeist from outside your house because the lights keep turning on and off.
Yes, it's super fun, but it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And once you do it, you want to do it more
Uh-huh.
because you notice the difference.
yeah.
It's a really good analogy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Your grandbaby knows all.
I like to think so.
That's the truth. Anyway, it's simpler than we think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely. So,
mhm, yes.
all right, well, that's great. So, thanks to all of you for listening to another episode of Breaking Up with Our BS. Hopefully, you got some ideas on how to better cultivate patience, and that's something that we talk about quite a bit. You can check us out at our Facebook page, Breaking Up with Our BS, also our YouTube channel of the same name. You can get this or any other episode of this show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also sign up for Tawny's 6-week self-mastery course that covers a lot of this, and you can integrate this into your own lives rather than just hear us talk about it. And certainly you can reach out to us at those locations. We'd love to hear from you and chat with you.
Absolutely.
But until next time, I'm JDK Winnikin.
And I'm Tawny Santabria.
Thanks for listening in. We'll see you soon.
Quite a certain harmful habit.
Stop it now, I mean it.
I don't think he felt anything after the crash.